Hello.
Hey.
So, Norm, you want to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your business?
Yeah, sure. My name's Norm Marsh, and I am a freelance photographer. I do everything from landscapes to portraits to family shoots to product photography. I'll pretty much do anything besides weddings. I just personally, it's not my cup of tea. I've done a couple of them, and I found out I really do not like them, so I just stay away from weddings.
Awesome. I'm a photographer myself
Yeah.
too. Do mostly nature landscapes, but thinking about doing some professional headshots. I dabbled in that a little bit, um,
Nice.
and maybe some product photography. But it's fun.
Yeah, it is. I absolutely love it. I actually started with landscapes myself, and I absolutely love it. It's a great thing. It's a huge passion of mine. It's not just like it's a business obviously, but also it's a passion
Yeah,
of mine to do.
passion of mine too is an interest, and I kind of like to keep it on the interest side. But if I find like a photo that I really enjoy, that I feel like that I took, and I think people will like it, I might offer up to sell it, and maybe if the professor had says like maybe I can turn photography into a business. That's
Nice.
one thing. But yeah, when did you get started on taking photography?
When?
Yeah, when?
Oh, okay. This is a loaded question, but I'll try to sum it up as much as possible. But I love to talk. So, I actually started back in 2007, back in high school.
Oh, me
Um,
too.
yeah, so I just took a class in high school. It was part of the art class, and I just used one of those, point and shoots pretty
Yep.
much. Is you put the small little memory card in. It's only got the screen
Yeah.
on the back. I guess it's either a point and shoot or a bridge camera. It's one or the other. They're kind of similar.
Yep.
So I just used one of those, and I absolutely loved it. My dad used to take me out actually where I live, and he would take me around, and he'd actually tell me, he'd be like, "Hey, to get a really good shot, just try to do something different than everybody else. Try to get up high or try to get down low." So me, because of my physical disability, I have spina bifida. Due to that, I walk with crutches, so therefore I'm not very stable on my feet. So
Yeah.
therefore, I get low for my shots, and I absolutely loved it, and it was great. And then at the end of the class, my teacher, I'll never forget her name. Her name is Mrs. Burke, and sweet lady. She told me, she goes, you've got something special here. You should keep going with photography. And little 17-year-old me with a 40-year-old teacher, 50-year-old teacher. I don't know how old she was at the time, but looking at her and I'm like, yeah, okay, whatever. So I ended up putting down the camera, and then fast forward to about 2015, 16-ish, somewhere around there. I just started taking pictures with my cell phone because I was going through a tough time in my life. And so I needed an outlet.
Yeah.
So I picked up my cell phone and I just started taking photos and I post them online. And people were like, wow, you're really good at this. And I was like, well, thank you. I appreciate it. It's just a cell phone. I mean, don't get me wrong. Cell phones are great,
Oh
but
yeah, they're amazing what you can do nowadays.
yeah, they're great, but I mean, there's just there's just that thing with a camera, like an actual camera.
Right.
Um, so anyways, so I told like the people who would say, "Hey, you do great work." I was like, "Oh, thank you very much," and I would put quotes with my photos because inspirational quotes, like uplifting quotes, because they help me. So if they can help someone else, that's fantastic. So um one day someone actually commented and said, "Hey, have you ever thought about, taking a class or something?" I said, "Funny enough, I wanted to over at CCRI over in Newport,
Mm-hmm.
like Newport, Rhode Island." And I told the person, I said, "Funny enough, I want to, but I can't because you need an actual camera and all I have is a cell phone." And I kid you not, the next day when I came home, I'm walking down my street and I see this package in front of my house and I'm like, I didn't order anything from Amazon. What is this? And the package was open and I'm like, okay, what's this? There was a note inside and it said, "You are great at what you do. You need to keep going with this. You need to keep going." And they actually bought me my very first camera. So it
Awesome.
was a, yeah, it was a, and at the bottom of the note, it said anonymous. So I don't know who bought it for me. Someone must have seen it on Facebook, knew who I was, knew where I lived, which is kind of weird, but hey, whatever. If they're stalking me or whatever, they're very bored because I don't do a thing. So anyways, So yeah, they just they bought me that, and then I took a class in college, and by the third week of class, my teacher actually asked me, she after class one day, she goes, "Hey Norm." I said, "Yeah, what's up?" She goes, "Can I talk to you for a moment?" And I said, "Yeah, sure, what's up?" She goes, "Can I ask you a question?" I said, "Yeah, what's up?" She goes, "Why are you in my class?" And I was like, am I that bad? Like, this is a beginner photography class. And she goes, no, that's the thing. You're that good. I was like, what do you mean? She goes, you're not a beginner. Like, you need to keep going with this. And I was like, wait a minute. I've heard this somewhere. I was like, where have I heard this from? And then a few weeks go by, we learn about Photoshop because that's what we learned was Photoshop. We didn't
Yeah.
even know
Did
about
you
like,
take the class at CCY for digital photography one?
yes.
I took that too. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So the intro
Yeah.
photography class.
Yep. I
Yeah.
took it on the Lincoln campus though.
Yeah, I was over at the Newport campus.
Okay.
So yeah, so once we, learned Photoshop and everything, by like, I would say like the fifth, sixth week of class, because, there's like 16 weeks in a
Yeah.
semester or something like that. I kid you not, people would be asking questions. They'd ask me, they'd be like, "Hey, Norm, can you come over and help me with this?" Or, "Hey, Norm, can you do this?" And one student one day was like to the teacher, she goes, "Hey, can you?" And she goes, "Why don't you just ask Norm? Norm seems to know everything about photography." And I looked at her, I said, "Not everything. I just really love photography." So our final, um, our final that we had for the semester, I don't know if it was the same for you, but for us, our teacher said to pick like 8 of our most, like our best photos throughout the semester.
Yeah.
So instead of doing that, I actually talked to my teacher and I said, "Hey, would you mind if I told a story with my photos?" And she goes, "Told a story?" And I was like, "Yes, told a story with my photos." And she goes, "If anyone can do it, you can do it. Yeah, sure, have fun." I was like, "Okay, cool." So the story that I did was, um, well, backstory to the story is there was this one student in the class who, if they listen to this, I'm sorry, but they thought they were better than everybody. So they were like, "Oh, I have, a Mercedes and I have, the best camera and I have this." And this person got
It's
on,
college.
yeah, exactly. This person got on other people's nerves. But the thing is, this college student at the time was, I believe, like 35, 36. So I'm sitting here and, I'm at the time, I'm like 21, 22, 23. And I'm just like, wait a minute. I was like, why are you acting this way? So, um, what I actually majored in college, I haven't finished due to personal reasons, but I majored in psychology. So I took it upon myself. I was like, you know what? I'm going to do this. So the story that I did was, you know, all of us in life have like different avenues we're going down and everything. But at the end of the day, we're all going to end up in the same place, which is a cemetery. And that was my final slide. And pretty much what I said was treat people how you want to be treated, because it doesn't matter what type of camera you have, what type of car you drive, how much money you have. That's all gone. What's people will remember you by is how you treated others and how you treated yourself. So that's what I wanted to get across with the story that I told. And I had a whole bunch of friends, and we went to different locations. I was like, "Hey, you hold this, you go over here. You hold this, you go over here." Like, we different things, but it all matched up and it all made sense. And so, um, anyways, at the end of my slides that I had for my project, I kid you not, you could hear a pen drop in the class. So everyone got up, laughed. My teacher goes, "That was unbelievable." She goes, "I don't know what to give you. You get like a A plus plus." I was like, "Okay, cool." So I passed for the semester. She goes, "Norm, you get a really good grade for the semester." I was like, "Sweet, thank you. Have a good one." And I left. So, but that's how my journey started. And I've been
Pretty
doing it
cool.
ever since. Like, it's a huge passion of mine.
Yeah. When you're really committed to it and you find what you really want, you start going down avenue and
Yeah.
doors start to open up.
Oh, doors start opening up, and then your wallet starts opening up because I didn't realize how expensive of
Oh
a
yeah, it could be an expensive
a
hobby.
yeah, exactly, of a hobby this is,
Insurance.
and of a passion this is. But honestly, I wouldn't trade it for the world, to be
Yeah,
honest with you. I absolutely love it. Even though some days I'm sitting here thinking, great, I spent X amount of dollars on all this equipment, but why? And then I was like, oh yeah, this is why. So
yeah.
I absolutely love it. So,
What kind of camera do you use?
so as of right now, I have a Nikon Z5.
Okay.
So I started with a Nikon D3300, which for anyone who watches this, listens to this, Nikon D3300 is just a DSLR, just like your like intro DSLR, and then a Z5 is a mirrorless camera. Which the difference between mirrorless and DSLR is DSLR they have a mirror that's here and here, so when you look through it, looks through both and then goes through the lens. As for
Yeah.
mirrorless, it's literally just a like it's glass, and then you put the lens on the front, and what you're seeing through the lens is actually what your eye is seeing. So I moved up to a Z5, and I absolutely love it.
Cool. Do you have different lenses you use for
Yeah,
different
so I had
shots?
a 24 to 70 that came with the camera,
Yeah.
and then I also have a 70 to 300, and then I also have a 50 mil, and I also have a 50 to 150, I want to say, that also came with the. So I got a bundle with my
Yeah.
camera. I was thinking about switching to like Sony or Canon. I think I was really looking into Sony, but then I thought about it and I was like, wait, if I just get the Z5, I can get the adapter for my lenses. I don't need to spend even more money on new lenses. So that's why I did that, because I already had some lenses from the D3300.
Right. Yeah. The I have a 50 millimeter lens, and it's pretty
Nice.
fun to shoot. You
Oh yeah.
get creative with it.
It's fantastic. Funny enough, though, the 50 mil is the least used lens in my repertoire, I guess you could say, in my bag. It's the one that I use the least, but it's the one I wanted the most when I was back in college. And
Right.
I'm not one to usually do this, but to have my parents buy me this lens because I couldn't afford it, I actually brought up bullet points of these are the pros of having this lens, these are the cons of having this lens, and it's the least one I use because I personally love zoom lenses
Mm.
because I use crutches to help me walk. So therefore, when say like I the 50 mil, oh, you got to get closer, say I can't get closer, therefore I can just zoom in. Yes, it may not be a shop, but still, it's I work with what I got here. So
Yeah.
and then also I love zoom lenses because I'm also legally blind, so therefore if when I'm looking at something, if I'm like, wait, do I actually see this, instead of using a prime lens which you can't move, I use the zoom and I zoom in and I'm like, okay, I did see what I thought I was seeing. So
That's true. Yep.
yeah.
Yeah. Zoom. Yeah. Each lens have the pros and cons, like you
Oh,
said.
oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Awesome. So, reflecting on your journey,
yeah.
what challenges did you encounter during your school years, and how did they manifest to your adult life?
Well, to be honest with you, I used to get bullied mercifully, like throughout my school career, especially from second grade to middle of high school. I
Mm.
used to get bullied all the time, and so that was really tough. But to be honest with you, I treat people how I want to be treated, with respect, even though, and also obviously it's different now because adults, and we know better now and everything. But even growing up, just the kids who used to make fun of me and everything, I would still treat them with respect and everything, because um as my parents would always say, kill them with kindness. So that's what I would always
Mm.
do, and treat people how I want to be treated. I don't want to be treated badly, so I'm going to treat you with respect. But at the same time, if you're going to treat me bad, my attitude, I can flip that real quick, and I can, I'll get on your level. But so it was tough growing up. It was, but also I just went out. As I've always said, and I will say this until the day I die, life is full of obstacles. It's just our job as humans to find a way over, under, or around them. So just
Yep.
kept pushing, just kept going. And, it is what it is. Like, I just let things like that roll off my back. Actually, just recently, I ran into someone from middle school. And mind you, I'm in my 30s. I'm 34.
Mm.
They saw me recently and they were like, "Hey, how you doing?" I was like, "Good." They're like, "Hey, I just want to tell you, now that I see you, I'm really sorry for the way I treated you." I'm like, "Treated me when?" And they're like, "Back in middle school." I'm like, "Okay." And they're like, "Does it bother you?" And I'm like, "No." And they're like, "Really?" Like, I think about it every now and then. I was like, "Cool, but don't worry about it." I'm not mad. I'm not upset. I really don't care because we're adults now. Like I was saying that to myself, like, but you know, it's just, it is what it is. But it did help them out, and they're like, "Oh, thank you very much." I was like, "Yeah, no problem.
Yeah.
Have a great one." But yeah, no, that kind of stopped back in
Yeah.
high school. And I do greatly appreciate them coming back, like saying that
Yeah.
to my face. And it probably, they didn't think about it every day, but you know, just seeing me probably brought up things from the past and everything. And they're thinking about that. As for me, I'm just thinking about, hey, it's good to see you. What's going on? I want to get home to eat. Like one of those things. Like it doesn't cross my mind, but also be with being legally blind, just being able to, you know, not see the board, so I would have to sit up close to the in the front row, which is great, but also not, because we've all had these days where we just don't want to pay attention, and being in the front row, you know, the teacher would be like, hey, you're not paying attention. So stuff like that, but also just having spina bifida and walking with crutches, just trying to get to class on time, even though it was in my IEP that I could get to class late if I wanted to. But I don't like to do that. You know, I want to be treated just like everybody else, you know? Like I want to be treated quote unquote normal, because your normal is different than mine. Mine's different than, you know, Joe Schmo down the street. But I always tried to get to class on time, but it never really worked out. And also just because I had an IEP in school, because also I'm a little I have a learning disability as well. So that was a little tough, but you know, it is what it is. You just keep going out, going on through life. So you can't stop.
Yeah.
So
Does anyone still like treat you differently?
yes, but they don't bully me, but they definitely do treat me differently, and I can tell. Especially if someone doesn't know me, they haven't heard my voice before, anything like that, they will treat me differently until I start talking to them, and then I can see, you know, like the light bulb turns on there in their head, and they're like, "Oh, okay, like how you doing?" Also, just you know, going up and down stairs with like if someone's like, hey, can you run upstairs for me? Oh, never mind. I was like, no, I can go upstairs for you. Like, no problem. I got that and everything, especially for people who don't know me. But then once they get to know the person I am, then all that goes out the door, and they treat me again as a normal person and everything. In fact, I've always said this, and I absolutely mean it. If you can't make fun of yourself, then, you know, if you can't laugh at yourself, then what can you laugh at? That's what I was trying to say. So, friends, even coworkers and stuff like that, they'll bust my chops and everything and be like, hey, can you run? Oh yeah, you can't. But I don't mind that, because that bond that you have with people is great, because then they feel comfortable doing that, because they know you're not going to get upset by it. And yes, you're disabled, but they're not treating you that way. They're just treating you like everybody else, which I love. So if someone is, you know, busting my chops or whatever, that's great, because it's different than back in, you know, when you're in high school and middle school getting, you know, bullied and everything. That to me, if someone can, you know, once they get to know me, obviously not right away, but once they feel comfortable, if they, you know, start busting my chops and being like, hey, could you run? Oh yeah, you can't. I take that as, you know, awesome. Thank you. Cool. Like, yeah, because I'll give it right back to them, and I'll be like, yeah, I'll run, but I'm not very fast. Or I got this really good friend of mine who, I actually just saw, he's in the military, and we were out to breakfast, and I ended up tripping. And then he was like, he just looked at me, and the waitress is over here. And I went, dude, how could you trip me like that? And even at 34 years old, because I am just a big child at heart, I was just like, dude, how could you trip me like that? The freaking waitress, she's starting to turn red. He's starting to look at me like, really, dude? Like, really? And then I would stop, and I'm like, by the way, I'm only joking. By the way, hi, I'm a big child. So, like, I know when to be serious, but hi, I'm a child. So.
Yeah, once you get to know people, you have friends that you can joke around and mess around with. It's a different environment. Yeah,
Exactly.
It's nice to have that too. That group
Exactly,
of
because
people.
they treat you just like they would everybody else. And that's just what I personally want. I just want to be treated like everybody else. And, you know, respect earns respect. You respect me, I respect you. But like I've said just earlier in this interview, is that if you're not respecting me and you're starting to be a rude person, to be polite and everything like that, I can get right down to your level. So,
yeah, which leads me to my next question is, what aspect of your identity or your disability do you wish society better understood?
That even though I'm legally blind And this is just me personally, because I can't talk for anybody else who's disabled or
Yeah.
anything. But for me personally, who's physically disabled and legally blind, I can do pretty much everything everybody else can do. I'm just adaptive with it. Like case in point, if I had like go upstairs with a laptop or something, if I have a bag with me, I'm putting things in my backpack because I use crutches and I need both hands as I'm going up the stairs, or I'm going on my knees and I need my hands anyway to get up the stairs. So as I say, as I also say, if there's a will, there's a way. You know that saying?
Yeah.
Like I always try to, like, there's always an alternate route, and I wish people would know that, who would be like, oh, okay, well, there may be, this in his way, but it goes back to the whole entire obstacle thing I was talking about. So,
Also,
I,
I guess finding those tools to help you out in your life.
exactly, yeah. And I just wish that, even though I'm disabled, I'm just like everybody else. Like, I may do things differently,
Yeah,
but I'm still going to do them.
and even if you have a disability or not, I think everyone also has a different way of doing things too, and everyone has different way needs to
Oh yeah,
find different ways to do certain stuff with different, to have those different tools in the tool bag to help them out in life. Yeah.
oh yeah, yeah. Exactly, yeah, because even someone without a disability, they do the same thing. Because I mean, I personally believe in one way or another, we all have a disability of some
True.
sort. Like, some of them are more, uh, what's the word I'm looking for? Like some of them are actual, like, defined as a disability, but some people may have issues to where they can't do something, and that's considered a disability as well. They may, if that's making any sense. So we all have struggles in life of some sort, and we all have to adapt in one way or another. So
You have a photography business and you're building it. How does it make you feel to have built something of your own and work for yourself?
to be honest with you, I love it. I don't even think of it as, and I don't mean this in any rude, disrespectful way or anything. I don't consider it like a business type
Right.
thing,
Yeah.
because it's a passion of mine. So I'm doing something I love. It may not be my full-time job right now, but also that's perfectly okay, because I'm building that up, and hopefully one day this will be my full-fledged, like, hey, this is my one and only income. But as of right now, it's one of those, do I want soup or do I want to have like
Right. Yeah.
chicken for dinner? It's like one of those things. Also, just a passion. Like I said, I started doing portraits and family shoots with people, which sorry to jump back, but also that's something I had to get over with being like, because you asked, I think in a previous question, was what type of struggles do you have with, having your
Yeah.
business and being physically disabled? So I started with the landscapes because, I could get down on my knees, because
Yeah.
again, I have to get low. And I didn't think that I could do family shoots or portraits or anything, because most people stand up. But I have found out that people, like, if I explain to them, look, the reason I'm doing A, B, and C, they trust me, and they're like, okay, you're the one who's the photographer, so they trust me. They're not going to be like, oh, he has to get on his knees to take a portrait of me. I don't really like that, or something. Or sometimes, because I have a three-wheel bike to get around, because again,
Mm.
being legally blind, I can't drive. So therefore, I have an electric assist bike that I use. So
That actually sounds
sometimes while
fun.
I'm out on location with, yeah, oh, it's a
Yeah.
blast. I absolutely love the thing. Um, I'll talk about that next after or something. But so while I'm out on location, sometimes I'll tell the people, I'll be like, "Hey, this angle is not good for anyone involved, so I'm gonna sit on my bike and I'm going to take a picture of you." And because the Z5 that I
Hmm.
have has a screen that pulls out, like on the back, like the LCD screen, I can sit there, and instead of being at eye level, I can still bring that down so it's at a different angle, but it's more flattering than being
Yeah.
down low. Because I mean, I'm sure as like being down low, sometimes it's not a flattering angle for some people. So therefore, I'm like, okay, how can I do this? And I just sit on the bike, and at first, I can see the clients that I have. They're like, okay, like I can see they are a little, little like not sure on how this is gonna go, But then I usually don't do this, but sometimes I do. If I can tell with my with the clients that I shoot with and everything, if I can tell they don't really think this is going to work out, which is understandable, I'll turn the LCD, I'll turn my camera around and be like, "This is the shot I just took,"
Yeah.
and then their eyes will just open up and be like, "Wow," and everything. So they don't mind that I'm shooting on the bike because I'm like, "Okay, this is where I got to shoot from. Don't worry, I got you. You get like, trust me, I can do this." So the way that I look at it is if you have a vision in your head and you have to adapt to it, just adapt. Like if you, in your head, if your head is, if like, your mind is saying to you, you can do this, just A, B, and C, go do it. Like don't hesitate to do it. And that's what I have found out to where I'm like, okay, if I get down this way, I can get a cool angle from this. And then I just go off and do it. So. Because you don't know what you can do until you try.
Yeah, I think that's the great thing about photography. You can try different things and be creative because there's no one set rule where you have to stand in this place or use this
Exactly.
position or whatever. Like you can be so creative. Yeah.
Oh, 100%. Like with photography as it is, there's these rules to follow, which I put quotations around rules because yes, it's
Yeah.
nice to know the rule of thirds or the golden ratio, and you should learn those. And then the exposure triangle. Every person who's getting into photography should know the exposure triangle, which, is your aperture, your ISO, and your shutter speed, and all of those have to match together. And then the rule of thirds, it's placement of where your subject is in the frame, and then the golden ratio, what leads up to your subject. Anyways, so you should know those, but also at the end of the day, photography is art, and art is subjective. So what this person over here doesn't like, this person over here may like. And again, it goes back to the rules, and I put rules like this because they're not rules, they're just guidelines, but you should know those certain guidelines before you go off and do your own thing. Like just don't automatically pick up your camera and be like, okay, I'm going to click. No, like learn how to do those things, but also once you learn how to do them, branch off, try something different.
But what I said and you said too is like if you and I go out in the same spot and take the same photo the same day at the same time, we may or the same subject I say of the photo, we may not. The end result may be different because we see the subject differently, and that's what makes it. And what makes it creative too and fun too.
Oh yeah, most definitely. It's so just a couple of weeks ago, I was out and there was a gentleman standing here, and so where I live in here in Rhode Island, I live by the coast in Jamestown. So it was a foggy day, and I went out and I was like, okay, I want to get some moody photos. And there was a gentleman standing here, and I was like, okay, what's he staring at? And then I looked, and I was like, I was like, okay. So I didn't stand like here. I stood here, like on my bike. I was here, but a little further down. But I ended up meeting up with the guy, meeting the guy, talking to him. He got my Instagram. I got his, all that. And then, his photo came out totally different from mine. Even though we were standing just like, I don't know, like 20, 30 feet apart, it's just like the whole entire difference of like what you were just saying of you may see something different than what I see. Even though we're staring at the same thing, we're not. And that's one of the beautiful things about photography is, everyone sees something different, and you get to, especially if you're going out with people, you get different perspectives of how people actually view the world, and it's fantastic.
That's one of the things I like to say is photography. I'm able to use it to show people what I see in the world, how I see it, my point of view.
Exactly. Yeah, that's a perfect way of putting it, because that's the same way with me, because I may be legally blind, but I'm still seeing things that you're not seeing. And people ask me, they're like, how do you see that? And I'm just like, well, going back to the whole entire normal, this is my normal. I'm used to it. So it's just the way I see things. And then if I think I'm seeing something, that's when I put the lens up to my eye and I'm like, okay, this is actually better than I thought. So real quick, I promise. I was getting sunrise shots with someone, and they're really into bird photography. And so we're out getting some sunrise and getting like, we had a lighthouse in the picture and everything. And then all of a sudden, my buddy, his name just happens to be Norm as well. And he actually was a a photography teacher over at CCRI, but at the Warwick campus. And so me and him go out, and he's taking a picture, and he's going, "Oh, do you see that bird?" And I was like, "No." And he's like, "Oh, click, click." And so I was like, "Okay, sunrise is right there. He's pointed at that bird. I can't see said bird." Anyways, I take the photo, I come home, I put it on my laptop, and I went, "Huh, the bird's in my phone." Like, I was able to make the photo. It made it even that much better. And I was just like, wow, I couldn't see it over there, but I actually got the photo. And that happens sometimes with me is I'll come back and I'll be like, wait a minute, that was in my photo? That's fantastic. Or I'll be like, great, that's in my photo. Well, thank God I got Lightroom because I'm getting rid of that. So
Can you share some of your proudest achievements so far?
I actually got into, I had a opening over at AS220 in Providence. I don't know if you've ever heard of AS220 or know about.
I have not. No.
So AS220 is an art gallery, but they are really
Okay.
well known. Like, they are big in the art world and everything like that. So I actually, and they're located in Providence. At least the one, like, there may be other AS220s like around the country, but I know of the one in Providence.
Yeah.
So anyone who's listening at this, don't come at me. But for not knowing. But it was quite the, like, at first I was just like, cool. I got into an art gallery, and someone was like, you got into AS220. Like, that's huge. I was like, oh, they're known like countrywide. I was like, oh, because if you're part of them, like, of AS220, like, you can go to like different countries and stuff like that. Like, if you work like in their community and stuff like that. I have not done that. I would love to, but it is what it is. But so that's one of my proudest achievements. I also had a one of my first shows was like individual shows. There's a retail, like, no, a realtor, like, houses and stuff like that, that they let me have a show in their office, so like their
Oh,
building.
cool.
So they let me put up as many photos as I wanted. That was great. I also, before I started working at the job that I have now, which is at an art gallery, I entered one of their shows, and I actually got best in show for one of my photos. So I was just like, oh, that's
Awesome.
yeah, that's I was like, wow, that's pretty cool. So um just, I've also been in my local paper a couple of times, which is great. I got on the cover of our telephone book, because we still have a telephone book where I live. And so, even though it's small, but still it's a telephone. It's great. Like, everyone gets a copy of that, so
Yeah.
that's fantastic as well. But it's just keep going. I just want to keep going and see where else I can go with this.
Yeah, it's pretty cool to see your work out
Oh
there.
yeah.
Like someone wants to hang it up in the office or the house, or
Oh yeah.
like you said, to cover the phone book. That's pretty cool.
Oh yeah.
Or the newspaper. Again.
There's a woman who owns a cleaning business over in so you're located in Rhode Island as well, right?
Yeah, I lived in the province area.
Okay, so you know where North
Yeah.
Kingstown is.
Yep.
Okay, so there's a woman who owns a cleaning business who bought a whole bunch of my photos, and she just hung them up in her office. And I was just like, oh wow, like, it's like she's like, yeah, I just have a wall dedicated to your photos because I absolutely love them. I was just like, oh, like, that really means something. I was like, that's sweet.
Yeah.
Like, I thank you. Like, just seeing that is just, it's great. It's I love that. And then I also I have put out calendars. This was my third year doing a calendar. So, putting those out, people have just told me, oh, I love your calendars and everything. So that's great. This cup that I'm drinking out of, I made this cup, and people have told me, they're like, I get to have a cup of coffee with Norm every day. I was like, what do you mean? And they're like, I bought a cup of yours. I was like, that's, it's fantastic. And,
It's like
it's very humbling too that people actually want to
yeah.
buy my stuff, that I like, my artwork that I'm like making and everything. It's very humbling, and I really appreciate everyone who stands behind me, and it's just like, hey, I want to work with you, and I want you to
Yeah.
do this for me. I just actually just the other day, I had someone who I haven't talked to in years. They were like, hey, I'm getting married, I need a photographer. I was like, Yeah. And I was like, sorry, I don't do weddings. And they're like, really? I was like, I greatly appreciate it. I will help you out and I will find you a wedding photographer, but I just don't do weddings. So, but even having someone wanting me to do their wedding that I know is because they love my work,
Mm.
I greatly, it's very humbling. It's like, wow, thank you for, choosing me and wanting me and loving the art that I do. I was just part of this past holiday season, I was part of a craft fair, and this woman came up to me and she goes, I absolutely love your photography, but someone who loved it even more was my husband before he died. And I was like, oh, I'm so sorry to hear that. She goes, my husband was diagnosed with cancer. And I was like, oh, I'm so sorry to hear that. She goes, yeah, but him seeing your photos on Facebook and Instagram and seeing the quotes that you put with them really helped him out when he was having a bad day. He would just look at your quotes in your photos and it would help him out a lot. And just hearing that really, it's stuck with me, honestly, because having someone who's
Mm.
going through cancer think that my art can help them, that's my landscapes and everything. That's exactly what I wanted out of that. Is if I when I first started this, and I still mean this to this day, obviously we all need money to live, but with my
Hmm.
landscapes, if I can just make one person smile and stop and forget about the world we live in, I've done my job. So if I can do that if I was able to do that for her husband before he passed away, that's the world to me. And then if I'm doing family portraits, or I'm doing family shoots, I mean, or portraits, if someone, if they can just get away from the world that they live in, because we all, have something going on, if they can just forget about that and they can just be present and they can, no pun intended here, but if they can smile and be happy, then I've done my job. Like, some families,
Yeah.
they may be going through something and I don't know what they're going through, but I hope that after they leave a session with me, and this goes along with like just portraits as well, but in a different manner. But let's just stick with the family real quick. If they, say they're going through a hard time, and the husband and wife, or whoever the spouses or whatever, if they are, in a tough space, I hope they or whatever. I hope they can look at my photos that I've taken for them and they can be like, you know what? We were happy here. Like, he legitimately made us happy. We can work this out and we can still do this. And then with portraits, everyone is beautiful in their own way. Like, all these models, like on magazines and everything, airbrush, like those are all fake. Like, we are all beautiful in our own way, and you should feel confident in your own skin. So if I can help someone, with a portrait session or whatever, feel confident again, I've done my job. Like, that's what I want. And then if they just need to, vent or whatever, they can vent to me. I don't mind. Just the time that you're with me, forget about everything going on and be the happy, positive, outgoing person that you are, because we're all that way in one way or another, and confident. Like, it's about confidence. So if you're leaving the session with me and you look back at your photos and you're like, wow, I was confident in this photo shoot, then yeah, keep being confident, because you can do that in every normal day, like not with a session with me, but you can do that in life. So
Yeah. Awesome. It's definitely good.
yeah,
And you had some um, great stuff happening. A lot of proud achievements
I
too.
appreciate that. Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
I just checked out a little bit of AS
220.
220. You
Yeah.
said, yeah, and I never heard of it, and I'm like, this is actually a cool venue,
Yeah.
cool place. I might have to do more research.
It really is, because when so me and a friend of mine, we just, decided to go there, see what would happen. And they were like, yeah, we'll have you in a show, but we're gonna, so they have like different offices in Providence, like different like,
Yeah,
areas. We were going to be in their corner gallery, which I looked at it and I was like, okay, cool, like whatever. It's AS 220. I don't care if I'm in the corner, like whatever. Like, it's just smaller than the main.
yeah.
Someone ended up dropping out, so they told me and my friend, they were like, hey, we're going to move you to our main gallery. So we were actually in the main gallery, to where usually everybody goes to. So that was quite,
Awesome.
yeah, it's just the whole entire AS220. It was fantastic, and I loved
Mm.
doing that. So I did mine during COVID, so 2020, so I couldn't be present during the opening, but still, it was just being part of AS220 in that sense was fantastic, and I loved it. So but everything I've done with photography,
Cool.
I've loved. There's never been like a, bad thing that's happened. I mean, except for when my camera had to be in the shop, but hey, that happens to all of us at some point. So
That's why you need to get
a backup.
backup. Yeah.
Yeah, I've realized
I
that
mean,
I'm saving up for a backup right now, even if it's
however, phones nowadays take really good photos,
oh, they do.
and that could be a good photo. Like people, I got some questions about
Mm.
starting photography and what they should use, and like what kind of phone you have. A lot of them have like the new iPhone,
Oh yeah,
or like the Samsung camera, the new Samsung
yeah.
phones, unbelievable lens. I'm like, use that.
Mm.
It gets stuck because you can have,
Oh yeah, you could,
they're starting to have like advanced features. You can adjust the lighting, the aperture, and stuff.
exactly. And I mean,
Yeah.
if someone's looking to get into photography, honestly, like I said, I started out with a phone. Like start out with
Yeah.
that, and then if you really enjoy that, then invest in a relatively cheaper camera, I guess you could say. Like
Mm-hmm.
don't go out and get like a $6,000 camera body or whatever.
Mm.
Invest in a cheaper camera body, but then along with that camera body, try to invest in better glass, because
Yes.
when you get the camera, some not all the time, but sometimes when you get a camera, it comes with a lens with it, and it's usually an 18 to 55, or it's a
18 to 35.
yeah, or like an odd number. Like it's
Yeah.
just those lenses, they're okay at first, but also I would invest in better glass because
Yeah.
um in whatever photography you ask, every that's the thing with photography. You say one thing, someone else is going to have a different, like, it's everyone's salt and pepper. Like everyone's different, but that's why they
Yeah.
make chocolate and vanilla ice cream. Some people like
And
chocolate.
and a lot of times too, like for other photographers, when they get new cameras, they will sell them on like Facebook Marketplace or eBay
Oh
or
yeah.
Craigslist, so you can get them cheap too.
Exactly, but some people will say, "Oh, well, get a really good camera body." Well, no, don't get a really good camera body. Start off with a cell phone if you're thinking about getting into photography.
Mm-hmm.
And then if you can afford even a DSLR, those are still fine. Like people are like, "Oh no, it's all about mirrorless." Well, yeah, mirrorless is great, but if you're just starting out in this and you don't know if you actually like doing photography with a camera, start out with a D3300 for me, or like I did, or a D7500. I'm only naming Nikon because that's all I know at the moment. I but just invest in better glass for your camera, because in
Yeah.
my opinion it goes the photographer, like you have to have an eye for photography, and then it's the lens, and then it's the camera body. Like it's the person that makes the and then the lens helps, and then the camera body, yes, upgrading will help, but you don't necessarily need that $6,000 freaking camera body. You can take amazing photos with just an intro camera. The D3300 that I started with, I actually sold it to someone because they were like, I want to get into photography. I was like,
Yeah.
hey, I got a D3300. It's been beat to hell, and I don't know how much is left on the shutter. I even looked it up because there's apps that like real programs
Yeah.
you can use. I was like, I don't know how much it's got left, but I can sell this to you for a little bit. And I kind of regret doing that because my camera recently was in the shop, as I was saying,
Mm.
and I was thinking to myself, I was like, if only I had my backup. I wish I really had a backup camera.
Yeah. And like we were saying before, sometimes that's the easiest way to get into photography. You may know someone who's into it or has a camera that they're willing to either give to you or
Yeah.
sell to you for a good price. And just to show like we both, anyone looking to sell photography is going back is use what you have, or
Exactly.
just buy like a cheap $100, $200
Yeah.
camera
Exactly.
because you
And
get
then
some shots.
yeah, and then if you are looking to, you can take classes, but also there's this lovely thing called YouTube.
Yeah.
You can learn
Yeah.
everything on YouTube. Or if you're not,
Peter McKinnon's great at that.
what?
Peter McKinnon's great at teaching on YouTube.
Oh yeah,
And all the
Peter
others.
McKinnon is fantastic. I actually, other than taking the classes that I did, I learned everything from YouTube, and Peter McKinnon is phenomenal for that. I actually, so going back to when I was in college, like I was telling you over at CCRI, the teacher, one of the first classes was like, "Who's a photographer that influenced you and like you look up to?" I was like, "Well, other than Ansel Adams, because he's the freaking grandfather of photography there, Ansel Adams with landscapes and everything. It was Peter McKinnon." And someone was like, "Who's Peter McKinnon?" I was like, "Who's Peter McKinnon?" Well, let me look this up for you. I was like,
Yeah.
"You down a road." But yeah, no, he's
Yeah.
great. But for people who are listening to this and they don't like they don't like YouTube like for reasons, and they like reading, just look up on Google like how to work your camera and just read about your camera. Really know your camera inside and out, and bring your camera everywhere with you, because you never know what you're going to see, because there's been plenty of times where I've gone out and I'm just sitting there going, "Oh my God, where's my camera?" And yes, I have
Yeah.
my cell phone, but it's just not the same. Like in a pinch,
I've done
yes,
that
but
too.
it's
Yeah.
not the same. So,
Yeah.
not that cell phones are bad. Don't get me wrong, but like as someone who uses a camera, I'd rather use my camera than my cell phone. So,
Yep.
always bring your camera with you, because you never know what you're going to find, and you never know.
Oh yeah. I used to carry this in my backpack all the
Oh
time.
yeah, yeah,
So the last question I
yeah.
have, why is the inclusion of individuals with disabilities important?
Because um we are quote unquote normal, just like everybody else. I mean, goes back to what I was saying earlier is, yeah, we may do things differently, but we still adapt, and we still, we can live a quote unquote normal life just like everybody else. And I put quotes because I've said this before and I will say it again. Your normal is different than mine. My normal is different than Joe Schmo's normal down the street. But it's just everyone's got some sort of, like I said as well tonight, is we all have our some sort of disability in a sense. Like, we all can't do something, but if you are considered quote unquote normal, you don't like, treat that person differently for not being able to do something. So why treat this person over here? They may
Mhm.
just do it in a different way than you, but they can still do it. So personally, I can't speak for everybody else. I can speak for myself, though, is just treat me like everybody else. That's all I want. And I think that's what a majority of people with disabilities would want, is just be treated like, we just want to be treated like everybody else. We just want, um, that's all.
Awesome. Yeah, I think that's a good spot to end too.
Yeah.
So no, where can people find you or learn more about your photography? Do you sell your photography?
Yes. So I am currently working on my website right now. I'm just,
Hmm.
I'm getting myself a logo, and I'm currently moving some things around on my website. But where you can find me on my website is Outa, OUTTA, The Norm Photography. And you can find me there. And then on Facebook, you can either just look up Norm Marsh, because I put my photos there, or I also have Outa, OUTTA, The Norm Photography on Facebook. And then on Instagram, my Instagram is Storman, STORMAN _ Normand. And that's where I have my photography as well. It's I may be branching out and make my another Instagram for my photography itself, but really all I put on there, unless you scroll all the way to the bottom, is I just put all my photography on there. So I just, and also with my company, like my business, whatever, not company, but my business name being Out of the Norm, you never know what you're going to get with me. So I may post, pictures of, like, I love baseball. So I may post something about baseball, or I may post something about football, because it's out of the norm. Like I'm original with what I do. And so
Yeah,
that's why I have not
that's a
made,
good business name too.
thank
Good
you.
play on words.
It's
Yeah, I like
so
that.
real quick, because I know you got to end this. So the story that I was telling you before about when I was in college and I did the
Hmm.
story, it was actually called Out of the Norm. That's what I named that whole entire series of photos. It was called Out of the Norm because a buddy of mine who actually helped me out with this, I was like, man, I got to think of a really cool, catchy name for this. And he goes, why don't you just call it Out of the Norm? Because what you are saying and what you are trying to get people to realize is out of the norm. Like you're going to the beat of your own drum. I was like, I
Yeah.
like that. So when I was starting my photography, I was like, Storm and Norman, that's great. And I was like, oh, Norm Marsh. Like I could just have my regular name, but that's so generic. I'm like, I want something that's interesting. So I searched the internet and everything. No one has the name that I have or anything. And so I made sure that I wasn't stealing anyone's name.
Yeah.
And then I asked my buddy who gave me the name for this. I was like, look, do you mind if I do this? Do you want anything? He's like, no, use it. That's fantastic. So that's how Out of the Norm photography started. And also, it started that way because if you haven't noticed, I'm sure I've said it throughout this interview, certain words I say, like I talk like I'm from Boston or like New York or Rhode Island. Like it's a mixture of all three. So park the car in the Harvard Yard. I have a very thick accent, so outa kind of works out that way as well because I call it talking in cursive. Because I will say one word, I'll be like, I went to the car the other day just to go, and that one word, people will get, they'll stick to that word and they'll be like, what did you just say? So the whole entire outa works out because once people hear me talk, they're like, you're definitely from like New York, Boston. I was like, nope, not Boston, not New York. I'm from Rhode Island and I was born and raised here. So but yeah, that's the name.
Interesting.
Thank you. So, but yeah, no, outofthenormphotography.com and then Stormin Normand, Stormin STORMAN_Normand for my Instagram, and then either Out of the Norm Photography or just Norm Marsh if you want to be on my personal Facebook page. I don't care because I mainly just post all my photo stuff on there anyway. So
cool. Well, thank you, Norm, for joining me today on this podcast.
I appreciate it.
And good luck in your photography and have fun. And I know the spring is coming up, so I'm probably excited to get out there in the nice warm weather.
Oh yeah,
take photos.
I am really excited. I actually have 3 people who want portraits done already. Like they've booked,
Awesome.
and stuff like that. So it's great.
How can people book with you? Through your website,
They
email,
so they can go through my website. Like I said, it's a work in progress right now, but you can still send me a message on there because my email is on there, which is just it's just outofthenormphotography@gmail.com. You can see it on my website, and you can just talk to me there. Or if you find me on Facebook, so just shoot me a message on Instagram, and I'll talk to you about it because how I do my things is a little different because due to me not being able to drive due to my legally blindness and I need to, figure out how I'm going to get places, but also where I live here in Jamestown, Rhode Island, the landscapes are just amazing for backdrops, just for doing natural light shoots or for portraits and everything. Or also I just do portraits right here in my apartment because I got a white wall here that I can just put you up against, and I can put up, I have what do you call it there, backdrops that I can use and all that. So or I can go on location. I can go to where you are. I just would have to, take an Uber or find a ride. And so the best way to find me is through that. And then we can talk about pricing and we can talk about all that because again, it may not be a set price because if someone's like, hey, I'm in Massachusetts, okay, that price is going to be a little different than in Rhode Island because I'm going to have to find someone to bring me to Massachusetts. I don't mind going, but just know location dependent, the prices are going to be a little different.
Yeah. So. Cool. Awesome. Well, thank you again.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you for having me. I greatly appreciate you, having me on your podcast, and I hope to do it again sometime.
Yeah.